Australia didn't win this match because South Africa suddenly collapsed. They won it earlier than that. Before South Africa's chase had even settled, Australia had already made the most important decision of the match to build their defense around four spinner on a surface South Africa never looked comfortable on. And that's what made this win so interesting. This wasn't just a team executing well on that night, it was a team reading the conditions early, sizing up the opposition, and deciding we are not going to give South Africa the game they wanted to play. And the smartest part, Australia didn't wait around. Sophie Molineux opened the bowling, struck in the first over, and from that moment, the chase didn't just feel difficult, it felt controlled. Hey, I'm Shamyukta and this is 11 plus 1. If you love women's cricket and want to understand what really decides matches, you're in the right place. I'm a cricketer working towards playing in Australia, so when I watch the game, I'm always looking for lessons that can be applied on the field. Australia's victory over South Africa wasn't just about the result, it was about tactical call that changed the game. So let's break it down. What stood out to me first wasn't a wicket, it was the selection. Old Trafford looked like a surface where spin was always going to come into the game. It was slow, it had a touch, and it had that feel once you hit a length, batters weren't quite getting the pace they wanted. And that's exactly the kind of wicket where good teams take control early on.
The pace bowlers, but the variation of the pace bowlers, fair bit of spin. I heard Australia's got four spinners in the team, so it might be interesting.
Because against South Africa, you're not just thinking about dismissals, you're thinking about control. You're also asking a bigger question, how do we stop them from playing the game they wanted to play? And Laura Woolward is one of the best pace players in the women's game. If you let South Africa settle into the rhythm, play through the line, and trust pace early, you're basically letting them dictate terms. So Australia made a very clear call before the first ball was bowled. They picked four spin bowling options in the same 11. Sophie Molineux, Georgia Wareham, Alana King, and Ashley Gardner. And in Australian conditions, thinking that's not just depth, that's intent. This wasn't Australia saying we got spin if we need it. This was Australia saying this is how we win this match. That's not just a bowling change, that's one of the important structural decisions. And Australia backed that decision immediately. Molineux opened the bowling herself. That tells you everything about the intent. This wasn't spin held back in the control later. This was spin used as the first challenge of the innings. Fifth ball of the innings, loose trapped on the back leg. And yes, it's an early wicket. But more importantly, it's a statement. From ball one, South Africa weren't being allowed into the rhythm. No easing in, no settling phase, and no waiting for conditions to play out. Australia brought the pressure straight away. And that's the key point. They forced South Africa from the very first over into a game they didn't want to play. Once Laura Woolward got out, the chase changed completely because she was the one batter who looked capable of absorbing pressure and taking South Africa deep. She was the anchor. Once she was gone, the innings lost its shape, and what followed wasn't just a collapse, it was pressure, converting into mistakes. Take Chloe Tryon, she tried to take on Alana King, came down the pitch and ended up miscuing to mid-on. Then came Mlaba, tried to slog Wareham straight up, taken by Gardner. different batters, different spinners, but this outcome remains same. That's not a coincidence. That's pressure forcing decision. These weren't unplayable deliveries. These were overs where South Africa couldn't find a release option. No reset ball, no easy single, and no moment to breathe. And when that happens in T20 cricket, batters start manufacturing shots, and that's exactly what Australia wanted. At that point, the chase stopped looking like a chase and it started to look like a survival. 6 wickets for 11 runs. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens when a bowling unit keeps tightening the screws until there's nowhere left to go. The four spinner plan mattered because of variety, but the real edge was how connected they were. Georgia Wareham spoke after the match about how the group constantly shared information. What the pitch was doing, which lengths were gripping, whether the ball was skidding, and how batters were responding. And that changes everything because now it's not four separate spells, it's one plan executed through four different bowlers. If Molineux finds the grip, the next bowler knows. If King sees a batter committing early, that information travels. If Wareham notices a pattern, it gets passed on immediately. So each over doesn't restart the contest, it continues it. And that's why South Africa never got a clean reset in the chase. They weren't just facing a spin, they were facing a coordinated attack, reading the pitch in real time. Maybe the clearest confirmation came after the game because it's one thing for analysts to say Australia got it right. It's another when the opposition says it themselves. Nadine de Klerk said pace would have been easier to face on that wicket. That's a big admission because it confirms exactly what Australia identified. Spin wasn't just effective here, it was the toughest version of cricket South Africa could be asked to play. And when the team batting says the alternative would have been easier, it tells you the matchup was already decided by selection and conditions. Australia didn't pick up spin because it was available. They picked it because it was the most difficult challenge for that opposition on that surface. And that's what South Africa ended up facing. Now, I don't think the takeaway from this match is that teams should start forcing four spin attacks into every 11. Even Australia won't use this combination in every game, and that's the point. The real lesson is adaptability. The best teams don't arrive with a fixed plan. They read the conditions early enough to let the conditions shape the plan. Australia had the flexibility, they had the personnel and the clarity to look at the surface and say, this is how we win today. That's what separates good teams from great ones. Not just the execution, but reading the game early enough to control it. If you enjoy women's cricket analysis that goes beyond scorecard and gets into the decision underneath the game, subscribe to 11 plus 1. I'll be breaking down more matches throughout the tournament, not just what happened, but why it happened.